trees in the backwoods night. Red lights cutting through the pine in flight. Bigfoot stomping with his youngling beard. Whispers of tales that ain't too clear. UFOs buzzing solo through the haze. Howling banshees set the forest ablaze. Jersey devil howls drink rays to the sky. Drunken cryptids party until the morning's night. Yeah! It's showtime, running wild in the moonlight. Stars burn down, watch the freaks all take flight.
To good times.
Raise your glasses to the mysteries divine. It's showtime, let the cryptids realign.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Drunken Cryptids. That's right, the second video interview that we get a chance to do with the infamous Dano from the Cryptid Podcast. I had the pleasure of being on his show already. Great guy, you're going to love what he's going to talk about today. But let me get some of the front of the house stuff out of the way first. So this weekend, if you guys are going to be in Ada, Ohio, or the area, come to the Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree 2. I'm going to be there. We're going to have Miss Monsters and Molt's going to be there. Cryptids the Corners putting it on. Phenomenal podcast. We're going to have Nevermore Hollows is going to be there. Chumming with the Spirits is going to be there. Timothy Wayne Williams is going to be there. Joel from Free the Rabbit is going to be speaking there as well. I get a chance to be a speaker. Of course, y'all, I had David Hardy on. He's going to be a speaker. So it's going to be like a really cool conference. A whole bunch of us podcaster guys and researchers getting together and just talking about what's going on. And that's going to be this weekend, October 4th, in Ada, Ohio. And of course, at the end of October, I am going to be at the Arkansas Paranormal Expo in Little Rock, Arkansas. All the links will be posted below and everything going. So, and of course, blademedia.com. Thank you, Dylan, for all the hard work on the website and the logo. Appreciate it. And my team. I have the best team in the world. I will tell you that right now. Appreciate the brothers. Thanks for all the support you guys have done. Great research, great, just motivational build up. And it's not just for my personal team, it's from also the outside. The cool thing about starting this show over a year and a half ago now, I got a chance to meet a whole bunch of great people in the community. And I've been lucky so far with everybody I've met has just been absolutely great. I've met some dear friends, and unfortunately now we're spread all over the country, but through the power of the internet, we get a chance to visit, we get a chance to text, we keep up with each other, what's going on, share information, share research. So to everybody out there, I appreciate everything. And we do have a Patreon set up, and we also have a Buy Me a Coffee, so that helps support the show. We do have merchandise available. I'm wearing one of the shirts. I just got teal shirts in. They will be available in Ada. So we'll have teal colored shirts there. And of course, the teal colored shirts will be available in the Arkansas Paranormal Expo in Little Rock at the end of October. So yeah, check it out. And if you've had any one last thing. Thank you for liking and sharing. Keep liking and sharing. I see it. I appreciate it. You guys are great. I love my fans. You guys are smart. You guys are intelligent. You guys keep up with everything going on. And I do got to give real quick, because I haven't recorded anything. Life has been real kind of crazy for him the past couple of weeks, but I do want to send my condolences out to Jeff Moulton's family. Jeff Moulton passing away, and I'm sure Dan will agree with me on this one, was a huge loss to the Bigfoot community. It was really nice to have somebody in academia world come out and say yes. And if you know his story, he actually went out to disprove Bigfoot and Sasquatch. And through the evidence, became a believer. And he would go around and he would speak about just how these creatures can work and move and everything. And I didn't always agree with everything that he said, but that's the cool part about what we do, is that we're not always going to agree, because we all have theories. And if you guys listen to the show long enough, you hear my theories change all the time. So, yeah, like my theory right now, I got a great one on how they move, how they work. It's really unique. I'll be talking about that this weekend. Excuse me. So, but to the Melbourne family, our hearts go out to you, and thoughts and prayers for that one. And yeah, what a horrible loss. I unfortunately never had a chance to meet him. Was getting ready to reach out and see if I could get him on the show. Unfortunately, when the news of his passing happened. So, but without further ado, we have the host of the Cryptid Podcast, the infamous Dano, the diehard Seahawk fan, who's given me so far this year the only loss to my beloved Steelers. And it was a great game. Seattle definitely earned that game. Uh, they earned the win on that one. Y'all played a great game. So, but Dano, how you doing tonight, brother?
What's up, bud? Doing well.
Man,
Yeah,
I had such a good time on your show.
dude, we had fun, man. We really did. We had a lot of fun. And you are right, man. With Dr. Meldrum passing away, man, that's a huge hit to this community. Just a huge one. A lot of, like you said, you may not agree with everything that he said, or, but again, that's the good thing about this community is that we can agree to disagree, and you have people who are diehard, 100% flesh and blood. Then you have diehard woo, interdimensional portals, wormholes, whatever, but still, at the end of the day, we're all talking about the same thing. So that's what I like about it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And when it comes to the different camps, I mean, you do have your like you said, you have your diehard. It is flesh and blood. It is woo. With the portals, and I fall somewhere in between. To be honest with you, I do believe that there is certain aspects of these creatures, or certain creatures that are going to be flesh and blood, and certain of them are going to be in the supernatural realm.
Mm.
I view Dogman as more of a paranormal creature than I do as an actual cryptid.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is paranormal.
I don't really have a full opinion on Dogman because I haven't seen one. So
and I don't want to.
So I do. I want to see one of those. I want to see Acoustica. I want to see the Jersey Devil. I want to see Mothman, and not necessarily up close, but I definitely want to have some type of an encounter so I can just validate stories that I've heard. And I'm not disputing or disproving any stories that have been told to me. It's just they're fascinating, and that's kind of why I got into this whole cryptid thing. And it's really weird because there's a big space between from me seeing the Patterson Gimlin film to having my sighting. Then there's a huge just a long span of time where I didn't look into these things. I didn't talk about these things. I didn't seek anything out. I just didn't really want to mess with it. And then one day I heard, I was messing around on YouTube and I found Sasquatch Chronicles and sent them an email. Wes had me on, and that just kind of helped me get through that barrier that I guess I put on myself, and then was on a couple other shows, the Confessionals with Tony Merkel, talking about, because I felt like if I could talk about my cryptid encounters, I asked Wes, I said, hey, I've had some paranormal stuff. Who do I talk to about that? And he told me Tony Merkel. So I reached out to Tony Merkel. He had me on his show. And then I did a couple of Sasquatch Odyssey. I was on that show. Then I found Josh Smith's show, Mysteries Unknown. Him and I became fast friends. We're like brothers now, pretty much. And it was him kind of saying, hey, you should do this, man. You should do this. So here it is. And I started for selfish reasons because I wanted validation in what I had experienced, because over the time that I really started getting into it, I realized that I had 2 prior encounters, before my sighting. And I know that I had 2 encounters after my sighting. My encounters span, 78. Well, heck, I think I was like 7 years old. So I was like 70. I'm trying to think. Or 72. So 79. So like 79. And then like 81, 84. Like 91, and then 92. That's the span. So 3 decades. You look at it, and I had encounters. But before that, I had a lot of paranormal stuff, interweaved amongst that thing, those times. I've still had paranormal encounters, up to recently. So,
Oh, well, I don't want you to look at it for selfish reasons. Because, especially when you said validation, and I think a lot of us get involved into this because of encounters that we had. I grew up in a haunted house, grew up caring about Bigfoot, and where I was fascinated with it, to where I wanted validation as well of the haunted house. What is it? What is going on? 3 weeks ago, almost a month ago now, I was at the Sally House with Chumming with the Spirits, and that was a lot of fun to go investigate that up there in Kansas. But I had to get rid of the idea of being selfish because I would dig into and try and find people who had similar encounters. And like on YouTube, I found Sasquatch Chronicles.
Yep.
Emailed Wes and he emailed me back. We talked on the phone. And I was like, have you heard of anybody having anything similar? And he was like, yeah, because he had one episode, and I want to say it involved a cop who kind of came real similar to what I dealt with. And then recently, about a month ago on Merkel show, he had these two guys on that was discussing about a dogman encounter. But the way they describe the dogman encounter falls almost right in line with what happened to me that I discussed with you on your show.
Yeah. And it was it was crazy because when you started telling me your story, I'm listening to it, and I'm like, I've heard this story before. Like, word for word, syllable for syllable. I've heard this story. And then I asked you, I go, were you on Sasquatch Chronicles? And you're like, yeah. I go, that's where I heard your story. I knew I heard your story. And I was like, man, that is great. Because, me being prior military, you being prior military, one thing that I'm so fascinated about is hearing from other service members, men and women, who've had encounters. And people would say, well, I've never had an encounter. You know what? If you take 100 service member and you put them in a room, about 3/4 of them is going to have some type of an encounter.
Yep.
It's a numbers game. And I was, I don't know, lucky or unlucky enough to have, an encounter with a cryptid. I believe to be Bigfoot when I was stationed at Fort Dix, New Jersey for some training, and had paranormal encounters in my base that I was stationed at in Germany, and at F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Cheyenne, Wyoming. It
was fun. We've been to two of the same place together.
Where? Dix and...
no, I was at Carson.
Carson? Where's Carson at?
Colorado Springs.
Was that... What state?
Colorado. Okay, you were in Wyoming. You said Wyoming.
I was in Wyoming, yeah.
Yeah, my bad. We said Wyoming, and for some reason, Colorado popped into my head.
No, but here's the thing. I used to live in Aurora, Colorado. So I lived right across the street from, Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center.
Yep.
It's not Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center anymore. I guess it's like the University of Colorado something.
Yeah, they changed it.
Yeah. I don't know, it's crazy. But, so, it started as a young age, that I had these encounters, and the one that really terrifies me the most, I was about 4 or 5, and we lived in Tacoma. We lived in a house that overlooked Interstate 5 or I-5. And my brother and I, when we were little, we slept in a room right off of the living room. And I remember hearing voices, thinking it was my mom and my dad up. I'd peek out the bedroom door, and, the house would be dark, but I'd hear these voices. And then we moved up to the second floor, which is like the attic, but it was completely finished. It was a completely finished attic. It was beautiful up there. I can remember it. I would love to have a bedroom up there, as an adult. You walk up the stairs, you're on a landing, you take one step up, and you're in just a huge open room. It's got like a little enclave that you could have, your bunk beds on top of each other and against the wall. And then there was a window right there near the top. And it wasn't your regular shaped window. It was kind of a longer window and not as tall. And I remember when our bunk beds, I slept on the top bunk, my brother slept on the bottom bunk, and I would sit up in the on my bed, and I'd look out our window, and because I was just fascinated by all these lights, where were people going? What is over there? The road we lived on, I can't remember the name of it, but it went down a ways, then had a bend to the right, or to the left, I'm sorry. There used to be, and it's not there anymore, there used to be a pedestrian bridge that went across, and go further down, you came to a T-stop. If you turned right, it would take you to the elementary school I went to, and if it turned left, it would take you, back through the neighborhoods, and then, to wherever street. But along this road, there was like 4 or 5 streetlights, and one of them was at the end of my driveway, and one was at the bend of this road. And I remember looking out this bend one night, or looking out the window one night, and it was really foggy, but you could see the lights. It gave this glow that shone down. And I was looking out there, and I was kind of looking at, what I could see, and I just laid back down, and I heard in my head, "Look." And so I'm like, "What?" I'm like 4 or 5 years old. I look out the window again, and I see somebody kind of like not fully walk into that light, but just on the edge, like where I could see someone was standing down there. And I ducked down, and I heard in my head again, "I told you to look." So I don't know why, but I looked again, and there it was, still there. And I looked for a second, and then I went back down into my bed, and I hear, "Now you see me." And it's like, I've always been able to see you, or something like that. Now look. And I looked up again, and now it was one light closer to my house. And I looked back down. I got back down on my bed, was holding the covers around my face. And for some reason, I had to look again. And I looked up, and it was one light closer. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And I'm starting to get really scared. And then I lay back down, I look again, and it's one light closer. The next light, it would have been at the bottom of my driveway. And I just started screaming, freaking out, losing my mind. My dad and mom come running up the stairs. My mom's trying to calm me down. My dad's asking me what's going on. I tell him I saw a man out there. He told me to look, that he's been watching me. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I told my dad he's out there. So my dad, being, my dad, Vietnam veteran, he goes downstairs, and I can, now that he's downstairs, I look out the window, and I can see him go from the back door out through the kitchen into his garage, and he comes out with a big flashlight. Now, my dad also had a gun with him, and my dad literally cleared the entire area around our house, and then he walked all the way down. There's like a little field that was between the road and the fence that was put up so people couldn't go down the hill onto the highway. But you couldn't build anything on this field because it was like shaped like a really weird triangle. So he walked all the way down and then cleared that whole area coming back, and he comes back upstairs, he's like, "Buddy, I didn't see anybody out there." And I said, "He was out there. I saw him." So that's one thing that really freaked me out. I had a reoccurring nightmare that it was my parents were going to a costume party, Halloween costume party, and it was raining, really bad storm, thunder, lightning. Looked like people were throwing buckets of water against the big bay window in our living room. I mean, that might be a small exaggeration, but again, the rain was heavy. And I see our babysitter pull up behind my mom. Her name was Susie. And she comes in through the back door. And my mom and dad hear her come in. Well, she's already in the living room with me and my brother. And I see my mom and my dad come walking out of the hallway from their bedroom. And my mom's dressed as a witch, and my dad's dressed as a vampire. And my mom goes, "Oh, you parked behind my car. We're taking my car tonight." And Susie goes, "Well, I'll go move it." My mom's like, "No, I'll move it." So my mom gets her keys, and she goes, and I'm watching my mom. I walk to the window. I'm watching my mom through the window. Thunder and lightning. My mom see her run, get into Susie's car. She starts it up. She starts to back up. The car explodes, flips upside down, and I hear my mom burning to death. And she's reaching out. I can see her reaching out through the window, and it's just a burnt hand. And this was a nightmare that I had. It just freaked me out. Well,
how old were you for the nightmare?
Like 4 or 5 years old.
That's horrible.
And I remember, I'm 53 now, and I remember it like it happened yesterday. So, fast forward, deja vu hits. Okay? Thunder and lightning. Mom and Dad going to a costume party. Susie pulls up. Right when she pulls up, a flash of lightning hits. And I remember that flash of lightning in my nightmare. And I remember myself, I was sitting on the couch. We were watching this show, Emergency, where it was like paramedics. And I remember seeing that flash of lightning. And I just remember saying, "Tonight's the night." And I got up. And as I got up, Susie comes walking in the house. My mom and my dad, they come walking out of the bedroom, out through the hallway, dressed as a witch and a vampire, and I flip out. I lose my crap, and they didn't go to a Halloween costume party. They didn't, because I was unconsolable. They could not get me to stop. So
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. My brother had an encounter. I actually watched it upstairs up in the bedroom that we slept in. He would sit. It wasn't really a closet. I won't say it was more like a storage space, but there was a little bar up there you could hang clothes on.
Yeah.
And inside of it there was a window, like a really weird shaped window. And I remember my brother was sitting on the floor, and I come walking up the stairs, and I see him roll a ball into this closet, and then it rolls back out. And I go, "Oh, hey, let me do that." And so I go and I do it, and nothing. It doesn't come back out. So I go and I get the ball and I give it to my brother. I go, "You do it." And so he rolls it. Now my brother's like 2, maybe 3, right? He rolls it, and it comes back. It comes back out. And I go, "How are you doing that?" And he looks at me, and he goes, "Bubby, they don't like you." And I go, "What?" He goes, "They don't like you." And I start screaming, "Mom, Mom!" My mom comes running upstairs. "Bobby's throwing the ball in the closet, and he says they don't like me." She's like, Who? I go, "I don't know, but they don't like me." And, yeah, then, my brother had a really bad nightmare there one night. It's like, he believed there were rattlesnakes in our beds and on the floor. And I did not see any snakes, but he was seeing snakes. And then he got me freaking out. My mom and dad couldn't calm us down. They had to call my uncle over. And my uncle came over, and, when he gets there, my brother's screaming, and he's, remember the toy Lincoln Logs?
Yeah.
He's slinging Lincoln Logs all over the bedroom. I'm throwing them with him because now he's got me seeing snakes, which I really don't see snakes, but I'm thinking there's snakes there. And then my Uncle Walt comes up and, kind of calms him down a little bit, and then we wound up staying at my uncle's house for the weekend. Don't know why that happened. It was just like people say, night terrors. And when my daughter was little, she would have night terrors, and it would just be her sitting up and crying and kind of hysterical, but not understanding why she was sitting up and crying. This is like realistic life threatening things that my brother was going through. So I always call it House on the Hill. And I don't know if there was something with that house, but stuff didn't stop when we moved away from that house.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, right off the bat, it sounds to me like, yeah, there's something wrong with the house, with what you were witnessing outside the window, I mean, coming through and the voice talking to you, telling you, now I see you, and which gives me goosebumps, by the way. The ball rolling into the
Closet.
closet. I mean, right there, and then the nightmare. I mean, it sounds like, I mean, you guys were definitely being affected. You said so when you moved, it went with you.
Well, I don't think that went with us, but I mean, we were just picking stuff up. But another thing that really was really weird that happened. You know what a steamer trunk is? Kind of
Yeah,
like a big,
yeah,
like a big Foot Locker almost, right?
yeah, I've got one.
Back in 1800s, people would use steamer trunks. They pretty much would pack everything you own in these things, and they would, they'd have all the stickers on them and everything where they were travel or whatever. My dad had one of those for us, and it was a big toy box. That's what we used it for. And my dad,
Mine's full of my old military equipment, all my like BDUs, DCUs, everything. Yes, that's what I have in mind.
man, the only thing I have left from the military is my beret. That's it. I don't have any BDUs. I don't have nothing.
No, I got BDUs still. I can't fit into them, but I've
Oh.
got BDUs and DCUs still.
I would love to still have a pair, but so this huge steamer trunk. My dad fixed the hinges, so if we did climb in and play with it, it wouldn't just fall down on us. You'd have to like physically push in these hinges, so then it would fall down. So you could keep it open, and that's what we normally did. So, we were in there. We were playing hide and seek, and me and my brother decided that we were both going to hide inside the steamer trunk with our toys. Now, at the time, I'm sure we thought we were the greatest hiders in the world. I'm sure we thought we were completely covered up by our toys and our stuffed animals. But in reality, I mean, anybody probably could have walked over there and looked in and said, "Oh, look, there's Tony's arm or Daniel's arm, and oh, there's Bobby's toe," or So we thought we were being clever. And Susie was looking for us, and she made it a point to let us know that she was coming up the stairs, and we could hear, and we're trying not to giggle. And just as she gets to the top of the stairs, because we could hear her stop at the top of the stairs, it goes black. Because the lid of the steamer trunk gets slammed shut. And we hear over, my brother and I were crying, and we're screaming, but we hear Susie saying, push it open, open it up. Open. She couldn't get it to open. And we were freaking out, screaming as loud as we could. Well, one of the neighbors heard us screaming and came running over, and they just came in the house, and they followed the screaming upstairs. And this guy, he was a biker, was trying to open up the lid of the steamer trunk as well. And Susie, she's freaking out. And about that time, my dad comes home, and next thing you know, we hear like a drill, and my dad had drilled holes into the thing to like take the lid off. And they had like an old locking mechanism on there, but it wasn't useful, so you couldn't lock it. However it was broken or whatever prevented it from locking. But they could not open it up. The next thing we know, they were actually physically removing the whole top of the steamer trunk off. And there's this big biker dude standing there. There's my dad standing there. There's Susie standing there. They're all freaking out. And that was the last time that we played in that steamer trunk. But Susie, I remember Susie saying, "I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it. It just slammed shut." So.
Yeah, that'd be a scary experience for a kid. Even as an adult, that would be, yeah. Ugh.
That's just like crazy things. And then after that, I had an incident where my dad, I was about 7. My dad wanted to take me hunting. Now all this so far has happened in Washington State. So my dad and my uncle and I went to this place. I want to say it was north of Aberdeen, Washington, and it was a hunting. They called it the hunting camp. And my dad took, when we got there, we drove down this old logging road, hiked about an hour or so, whatever, into the woods, set up camp. My dad took me up this path and was pointing things out to me. And you could see as we come, like, the path went up and then over like this. So as you came up here, you could see this tree up there with a deer stand in it. And what was really weird, if I remember, the way I remember it, is it was the only tree around that had a deer stand in it. There were no trees around it. There were some bushes, some really tall, thick bushes off to the right, probably about, I don't know, maybe 50 yards. Behind it, there was a clearing that it just like it had just weeds in it and stuff like that, like grass and stuff. And then there was the wood line. And then in front of this, there was 2 game trails that crossed about 20 to 25 feet in front of the deer stand. And then right over, like, down this hill was a stream. And so, my dad kind of pointed all this stuff out to me, explained why they put the deer stand facing this way and not facing the other way, and, whatever. And, as an adult now, as a hunter, it all made sense. It makes sense to me, is why they did it, If you have it, the deer stand facing the woods, and the game trails, they come from left and from the right. If there's ones come this way, you got to swivel, they could potentially see your movement. But where they put it on the backside of the tree, so to speak, that overlooked the stream. And then again, down about 15 feet down, because we're up in the tree about 15 feet, about 25 feet out in front of that is where these game trails intersect. So now you can just be sitting up there, wait for them to get in that little area, and then boom, you got a clear shot. They don't even know you're going to be there. So he takes me back to camp. We eat, we go to bed, we get up. Now, it is not like, dark 30 when we get up there. It's way later than my dad, and even now, if I hunted again, it would be way later than you'd want to get out into the deer stand. So it was pretty light out, but it wasn't the time to hunt. And again, we weren't there hunting. It wasn't hunting season, but my dad did have a rifle just in case something, like a bear or a cougar or something like that showed up. My dad never went out in the woods unarmed. Always went out in the woods armed. And so we get out there, climb up in the deer stand, and he gets up there with me, and he's looking through his little knapsack or whatever, and he's like, he goes, I left something at camp. I got to go get it. And I'm looking at my dad. I'm like, okay. He's like, listen, there's nothing out here that's going to hurt you. You're completely fine. You're safe. You're way up in this tree. You're 50, we're about 15 feet up in the tree. He goes, I'm going to run back down to camp, and I'll come right back up. He goes, I think I know exactly where it is. You're going to be fine. Don't be scared. You'll be fine. If something happens, just yell. I'm like, okay. So I see my dad get down. I watch him walk down the path, and then he disappears down where I can't see him anymore. And I'm sitting up there, and, it's getting a little lighter, and I hear the stream. And the stream has a very hypnotic, sound to it. And it I don't know about other people, it makes me sleepy. And that's what I started doing. I started nodding off. Now, when I started nodding off, I had my legs kind of stretched out. And just as I felt like, you get to that point where you feel yourself falling asleep, you kind of jerk. Well, that's what happened. And so I'm like, oh, man. So I kind of look around a little bit. And for whatever reason, I just kind of looked down, and I noticed that my boot was untied. And I'm like, well, maybe when I jerk myself awake, and I'm 7, I'm trying to use 7-year-old logic. Maybe my bootlace got stuck on this tree stand a little bit, right? That's what made sense to me. Perfect, no problem. Now, I just want to preface this by saying that the word Bigfoot, the name Bigfoot, the name Sasquatch, were non-existent to me at this time. No clue what that was. Didn't know they existed. Didn't know who Patterson and Gimlin were. No clue. right? So I tie my boot back up, and it's getting lighter. I'm kind of looking around now. I can start seeing a little more detail in things. And again, the stream strikes again. I start falling asleep. Get to that point, boom, my body jerks again. I'm thinking, okay, whatever reason, I look right back down immediately, and boom, my boot was untied. And I'm like, Dad, stop messing with me. Now I'm thinking he's cutting up, he's trying to scare me, trying to get me to stop falling asleep. So I tie my boot, and I'm looking around, and then I sit, and I'm watching my boot. I'm watching it now. It's light. I can see colors. I can see greater detail, and I hear this loud crack come from my right, and I snap my head over to see what it was, because it sounded pretty close, and my boot jerks again, and I look down, and my boot's untied, and I stand up in the deer stand, and I start freaking out. I am screaming at the top of my lungs, Dad, you're not funny. I'm done. I want to go home. Quit scaring me. I don't ever want to do this. And I look over and I see my dad sprinting up the hill, up this path. And he's like, shut the F up. You're not going to see nothing if you're up here screaming. And I just give it back to him. You were up here trying to scare me and blah, blah this and blah, blah that. And he's like, whoa, what are you talking about? And I told him the whole thing. Told him what happened, what I was doing, where I heard the noise. And he's like, okay. He goes, just stay in the tree for right now, because I'm going to look around. So he goes and he looks around, and I'm standing up in the tree, and I'm hugging it, and I'm looking around so I can see my dad, because he's behind me now, right? So I'm kind of looking, and I see him stop, and he kind of squats down, and he kind of just touches the ground. He's kind of looking at something, and then he gets up, he kind of looks to his left and looks to his right, and then he gets up again, and he takes his rifle off of his shoulder, and he starts walking up in this little field area. The field was probably, from the tree to the tree line, was probably 50 yards, maybe, if that. He gets walking up into this grass, and he stops about 20-25 feet, and he all of a sudden just, he has his rifle at the ready. He loads it. It's a Marlin 30-30 lever action. And he brings up to his shoulder, and he's scanning left to right, right to left. And he stops for a second, and he's looking. And he just slowly starts backing up. And he gets close to me. He goes, Daniel, get out of the tree right now. Get out of the tree. And so I'm kind of like, what? He's like, I said get out of the effing tree. So I climb down as fast as I can, and he goes, listen. And he doesn't turn his back. He's like, I'm standing kind of in front of him now. He's like, and he's keeping his eyes on the trees. And he's like, listen, run back to camp as fast as you can. I'll be right behind you. And I'm like, okay, And so I just stand there, and my dad's still looking. He's like, I told you, run back to camp. So I start taking off, but I don't hear him. So I stop, and I turn around and look, and he's still standing there. And then he turns to come back, come towards me, and he sees me standing there. He's like, I told you to get your F&A back to that mother effing camp. Get your butt moving, right? And he's screaming at me. So we have this whole little cat and mouse. I'd run, he'd turn around, catch me. I'd run, he'd turn around, catch me. We did this about 3 or 4 times. Finally, he gets to me. We're both not that far from camp, and we take off at a dead run. And we come flying into camp, and my dad, as soon as he gets into camp, he sees my uncle coming out of the tent. And he gets right in my uncle's face. Daryl, what the hell are you doing up to scare Daniel? Blah, 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 blah. He's like, whoa. He goes, man, I just got back to camp. He goes, I was nowhere near you guys. He goes, besides, it's going to be too warm today. We're not going to see nothing. We're going to see absolutely nothing. Everything's going to bed down because it's too warm. And so my dad goes, we need to leave now. Pack everything up. We need to go now. And my uncle, kind of looked at him. He's like, okay, let's go. So they packed everything up and we left. Now, years later, I asked my dad, I go, Dad, I said, remember that time up at hunting camp when my boot got untied? And he's like, yeah. I go, what did you see up there? I said, was it like a bear? Was it a cougar? He's like, what? I didn't see anything. It's what I heard. And he said he had never heard like a growl like that. So he knew he needed to get out of that area. And that's what we did.
I had a investigation area north of Heber. First day up there, I got the knuckle track and everything in that same area. Right before we found the track, right in front of us in the wood line, this low growl came. And, it was, I'd never heard anything like it before. In all my years being from out west, up in the mountains and the Rockies. But I think I figured out there was a bobcat that could have been up in that area. So, but yeah, that low growl is scary.
Yeah.
But what gets me though is when he stayed in that one area though, when he was aiming at that one spot.
Yep.
I'm wondering if he wasn't seeing something that didn't, feel right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but the thing is this, like I said, we were about 10, 15 feet up in the air, up in this deer stand. My dad was only 5'7". There's no way my dad could have reached up and untied my boot.
Yeah, I don't think that was your dad untying your boot. I mean, being 15 feet up, I'm trying to figure out.
A bear is not going to untie your boot.
No.
A cougar is not going to untie your boot. My uncle was only 5'9", 5'10". He couldn't do it, even if he wanted to mess with me. And plus, the deer stand it overhangs. You got the ladder that comes up on this side, and you step up into the deer stand, and you got the little railing that comes around like this, and then my foot's hanging out over here. So you're the deer stand hangs out over like this.
Yep.
Again, so what could it be? I don't know. You will never hear me tell you that it's a Bigfoot. But But what could it be?
Okay, so I interviewed a guy last year, since the Big E episode, and same thing. He was in a deer stand. It was right at, sun's coming up. They got there early morning in the dark still. Got in their stands. He's in the stand waiting, and it grabbed his foot, his boot. He was sitting there with it hanging off, and it reached up and grabbed his foot.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I'm telling you, man. You won't ever hear me tell you that was a Bigfoot. Now, it's really funny, or not funny, but coincidental, I guess, whatever you want to call it. Like 2 years later, now I'm like 9 years old, and me, my little brother, my dad, my uncle, my uncle's friend, two of my uncle's neighbors, and one of them, they each brought one of their sons with them. So it was like a boys' weekend, right? Yeah. We were going to go camping, same area. First day, we go, we take the trucks when we pull up in there, and we kind of turn them around so we're facing back down the way we came. So when we can leave, we just hop right in and just go straight back down this road. We all hike in. All the adults are carrying everything on deer sleds, right? You have a lot of stuff. You got 4 kids between the ages of 9 and I think 6, and they're not going to be able to pack a bunch of stuff. You've got 5 adults, they're going to be able to pack so much, but they're carrying stuff in a backpack and they're pulling deer sleds. It makes sense. We had a big canvas tent, like a GP medium, that slept like 16 or 20 people, however many people a GP medium sleeps. So it's an old army tent. You know what they are.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So, they set that up, and it's right next to the stream. It's literally probably 20 yards away from the stream, right in front of the yard, the campground or the camping area. There was a bend that came down to the left, and then it went back down to the left. So it was kind of like a long S. And right in front of us, there was like a rocky, kind of like pea gravel beach, something like that. but it was like slow moving part of the stream. So there was a pool right there, and it was a pretty deep pool, but you could see fish in there. And the minute I saw that, I was like, oh, let's get the fishing gear. Let's do some fishing. And like literally, we would throw the line out, and boom, they were hitting whatever. We could have thrown out a piece of paper, and they would have probably taken that paper. They were just jumping.
It's a good fishing day.
Oh, it was a great fishing day. We had enough fish for everybody. And so, we fished, we cooked it up, we ate it, we cleaned up our stuff. The next day we got up, my uncle's like, anybody want to shoot some guns? So we're like, yeah, so we're shooting 22s, and that's where he introduced me to Super Blackhawk, single action revolver, Ruger, 44 Magnum.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought I was old enough to shoot it because I was 9, and I could barely hold it. I couldn't even pull the hammer back. And so he did all that for me, and I shot it, and it took us about 20, 25 minutes to find it, because when I shot it, it flipped back over my head because I was sitting down. Yeah. And, my dad thought, and my uncle thought that would be the end of it. Little did they know that it just created a monster, because I love shooting. It's one of my favorite things to do. So later that day, we were shooting, and we heard this really loud yell, roar, something, right? And I looked at my dad, and I go, Dad, was that a bear? And it was way, way off. And he was like, yeah, I think that was a bear. I'm like, okay, no big deals, Got 5 adults here. I know there's more than one gun here. We're safe, no problem. So, we eat dinner and stuff. The next day we get up. My dad takes us, and my uncle takes another group of the people, and we broke up in 2 groups, and they're just kind of like, hey, look at this, and here's this, and if you're hungry in a jam, you can eat the bark off of this, you can eat these leaves, don't touch those, because he's trying to give us, he wants us to immerse us into this experience, They want to teach us stuff, And so he does that, and we go back, and we shoot some more guns, and sorry. So the night before we woke up and did all that, I kind of heard something like moving around the camp, right? Like the second night, we heard something moving around the camp, and we got up the next morning, and I saw prints, but I wasn't correlating prints with Bigfoot. I thought they were bear tracks, because I thought we heard that bear, right?
Yeah.
And so, the next day we do that whole thing. We shoot some more guns and stuff later on, and that's when we heard the same yell or whatever closer. And I looked at my dad, and my dad goes, bear. I go, oh, okay, no problem, bear. So, we're back in camp, and we have a campfire, and we're eating and stuff, and we put everything up. And then that night, I wake up because I hear something, more than one thing, moving around camp. And when I say moving around camp, it's not trying to be quiet. It starts tearing our camp up. I look over, and I notice there's a dim light in our camp, our tent. My uncle had lit one of those Coleman lantern things. Yeah. And he kept it really super low. And my uncle and his friend were in the middle of the tent. One was looking out towards the front flap. One was looking out towards the back. My dad was sitting up on his knees next to me, had his rifle. My uncle and his friend had their rifles, and then the 2 other adults had handguns, and they were up. My brother and the other 2 boys were sound asleep. I was going to ask my dad a question. He told me to put his finger over his lips and told me pretty much shut my mouth, and I'm listening to this, and I mean, you can hear stuff being messed up, like our chairs are being destroyed. You can hear them ransacking through the coolers that we had out there, and these little coolers had like locking things, like you push down, you turn like this. These things were being just pulled open, and I go to ask my dad again, and that's when I hear something take its nails or claws, whatever, and move them slowly, like rake them slowly down the side of the canvas tent, right behind me, around the back and around the other side and then took off. You hear it just bulldozing right through the woods. And my dad's watching it the whole, can't see it, but he's following the sound with his rifle. I didn't go to sleep for the rest of the night.
I wouldn't have either.
Every single person that was up when that was going on was awake. The only people who were not awake was my brother and the other two boys. They were sound. I mean, I don't understand how they could have slept through it. And as soon as my uncle saw some like daylight come through like a little part like underneath the front flap, he gets up and he slowly takes his rifle and kind of moves the flap open and kind of looks and slowly pokes his head out and looks this way, then goes out. And I hear him say, "Holy S, Dean, you gotta see this." And I jumped up before my dad could even jump up. And I go flying out the tent. And our camp was wrecked. Our food bags were taken out of the trees. Everything that was not in a can was gone. Everything that could be destroyed was destroyed. Everything. All the coolers were ripped open, crushed, chairs were bent up, pots and pans were just thrown all over the place. Everything was just wrecked. And my dad's like, let's go. Let's go right now. And you could see footprints everywhere. Everywhere. You could see him walking down towards the stream. You could see him walking up from the stream. They're everywhere. And so my dad says, get everybody up, get your sleeping bags, everything out of the thing. So I go running in, get my brother and the other two boys up. We're grabbing sleeping bags. We're pulling them out. They don't know what's going on. As soon as we get out of there, the adults take down the tent. They don't even put it together neatly. They just roll it up the best they can, stack everything on whatever deer sled that they could, and he said, let's go. We left a ton of stuff back at that camp. A ton. So we're hauling butt out of the camp. And it was the two neighbors, then their kids, then my uncle's friend, then me and my brother, and then my uncle and my dad. That was the lineup, so to speak. Right. And we're going as fast as we can. Well, my brother and one of the other younger boys just couldn't keep up. So my uncle grabbed my little brother, yoked him up by like the back of his backpack, and put him on a sled and told him to lay across the sled. That's what he did. And the other thing happened, another one of the little boys, same thing. And now we're moving quicker. All of a sudden I hear my dad go, Daryl, I got one here on the left. And my uncle goes, I got one over here on the right. Or something like, it was either my dad saw one on the left or the right. I can't really remember exactly what it was, but my dad saw one on one side. My uncle saw something on the other side, but they said, I've got one on the left. I've got one on the right. And so they're like, move faster, move faster. So we come up this little embankment onto the road. The first truck that we see, I go jumping into the back of the truck. My little brother gets put into the back seat of the truck. It was like one of those old like logging crew trucks. So it was like a crew cab. So he gets put in the back seat of that. And I believe my uncle's friend jumped in the driver's seat. The other two boys, I'm sure, were with their dads. My dad jumped in the bed of the middle truck. And then my uncle, he threw the sled he was pulling into the back of the truck I was in, which was the very first truck as you come out, and my uncle jumped in the back of that. And then I hear someone slap like the side of the truck or the hood of the truck to get everybody, hey, let's get out of here. And that's what they did. They took off as fast as they could. Well, we weren't even moving 2 seconds, I want to say. And my uncle starts opening up. Boom! And it's not like he's just shooting randomly. Like he's aiming, and then I look up. I'm like right next to the side of the bed of the truck, and I grab a hold of the rail and I look up and I see my dad just going like this. He's boom, 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 and he's just like methodically taking shots. And about that time, I see like this branch or this like stick or something comes sailing through the air like a spear, and it goes right between, like right in front of the truck I was in, and right by the back of the truck where My dad was at. Now, do I think that they were maybe trying to hit my dad? I don't know. Were they trying to hit the truck? I don't know. But they both were just making those 30-30s bark, and then we got out of there, and that was it. I never went back there. I never went back there.
Whoa. Whoa. Did you and your dad talk about it afterward or anything further down the road in life?
That's one thing my dad and I never
ever What about your uncle?
Nope. My dad and my uncle never really got along. I thought my uncle was like the greatest dude in the world, but come to find out he was not that great of a guy. So I never really talked to him, you know. After that, I think I saw my uncle maybe one or two more times until I was an adult. And then the last time I saw him was at my my grandmother's funeral. So, but yeah, and then after that, we had our sighting in Graham, Washington.
Well, I want to get back to this one because this one is huge.
All right.
I mean, this was wow. I mean, we may bring you in for a landing on that one. To be honest with you, yeah, because I definitely want to have you back for another part too. But let's go back. Okay, so all right, so y'all go out and set up camp.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, catching fish, having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have fish for dinner that night.
Yep.
Right. Okay,
Yep.
So you cleaned everything up like as you should in the woods.
Yep.
Right. You're in Washington State, so obviously you're not bear, so you got to do all that because you mentioned the food, food bags up in the trees. So that night was the first night that you heard something.
So the first day
before y'all started popping off rounds.
No, we heard it after we were popping rounds off.
Okay, all right. So when you started popping off rounds, that's when you started hearing the noise.
We heard it way off in the distance, and that's when I looked at my dad and go, "Dad, was that a bear?" And he's like, "Yeah, it was a bear." Then the second.
So I'm wondering if your dad was like smart enough to kind of catch on that, yeah, it's a bear. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Oh no, I know my dad was because of after my sighting, after I should say our sighting. But here, let me, if you want me coming back on a part two, which I would love to do. Let me kind of give you a preference on who my dad was. My dad was raised in Alaska, okay? My dad, till the day he died, believed in werewolves. And he also had an encounter with a thing called Kushtaka, which is an otter man. And when he told me that story, he told me that encounter, I just laughed, and I thought it was hilarious. And I was like 15, 16 years old when he told me this encounter. And my dad looked at me like stone serious and was like, I'm not playing games with you, Daniel. I want you to know that what I'm telling you is true because there's things out there. There's things out there in this world that you have no clue that they exist. Right? Now, after he'd already told me, I already knew that Bigfoot was real because we saw one like 4 years earlier, And I go, well, tell me what you saw. And he told me about the werewolf that he saw. And he was, I want to say it was either before he was going to basic training or it was before he shipped over to Vietnam. But he wanted to get one more hunt in for the season. And he went to this area that he knew. He drove this vehicle. I don't know if it was a car or a truck. I assume it was a car. Drove his car up this logging road. And as he's driving, he sees this herd of mule deer, come down off this ridge onto the road. They cross the road. They go down this other ridge, down to this gully, and then they start going up on this ridge across the way. Now, he said when the last one crossed the road, he jumped out, grabbed his gear, ran to where they entered to go down this gully, and started laid down, broke out his binoculars. And what he's doing, he's looking, and he's guesstimating about 300 yards, probably over to the other hillside, whatever. And as he's looking at his binoculars, he's trying to see where the last ones are in conjunction with the first part of the herd. Now, he said the herd was not a giant herd, but it was a pretty nice-sized herd. So as he's looking, left to right, right to left. He's counting how many he can see. As he's starting to pan back from the left, he says he sees something entering his vision, his field of vision, and it's moving fast, and it's going across this other ridge that's across the way. And he snaps back real quick just in time to see this gigantic black wolf. He said he's never seen a wolf in Alaska that big, ever. My dad was raised in Alaska. He said he has never in his life seen a wolf that big. And he said he's watching this thing, and it slows down, stops at this tree, and then stands up on its hind legs and rests. And he said he put its hand on the tree. Not its paw, its hand. And he said it stopped, and it started sniffing around, and he said it just looked over in this area, and he's looking. And my dad's watching this thing. And he says all of a sudden it just snapped, and they locked eyes. And it started showing his teeth. I'm getting goosebumps talking about this, man.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Because I'm watching my dad. My dad is physically in front of me telling me this story. In his eyes, there's nothing. Like he's back there. He's back in Alaska, you know? And he goes, this thing showed its teeth, and it dropped down to all fours and took off running down the ridge towards him. And he's watching. He said this thing moved so quick and so fluid through this environment that he lost it in this underbrush and everything. It was down. So he gets out his rifle. He's like, if this thing's coming for me, it's gonna have a bad day. So he gets his, and he hunted with a 30-06 at this time. So, and we know how powerful those rounds are.
Yep.
So he's scoping in, and he's looking. He doesn't see it. He's starting to panic a little, and he says, then he catches sight of it. He catches sight of it because it slowly starts like trying to creep out from some of this underbrush. And he says first he saw the muzzle come out, then he saw its head just emerge out through these bushes, and its teeth were showing. It was like licking its lips and licking its, like it was snarling at him. And he goes, I flipped my safety off, and I'm getting ready to shoot this thing. And he goes, then one of the mule deer made a noise. And again, I couldn't tell you I know what an elk bugle sounds like. I don't know what mule deer sound like. And he goes, that broke its attention for a second. Maybe it realized that, okay, this thing that's looking at me has a gun or something that can harm me, so I'm going to go mess with these mule deer. And so it snapped its head to where the mule deer made the sound and took off running towards it. Now, my dad's watching this whole thing with his rifle, and he says it goes back up to the other ridge, and it stops and stands up and turns and looks at him, again, bares his teeth, and then on two legs runs up the ridge and over the top of the ridge and then down the other side where the mule deer were going. My dad said he got up, grabbed his gear, ran back to his car, and that was it.
I'll be honest with you, I probably would have shot. As soon as I saw it coming through, I probably would have taken the headshot.
Me too. Me too.
Your dad not pulling the trigger, I'm really impressed he did not. But then again, too, though, so, I can say that now, sitting here talking to you, not being in that moment.
Right.
So, and, fear, as we both know, does really weird things to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you do freeze,
Mm-hmm.
like when we were at the same area where the ground stuff was at that night, we had giant eye shine. And not once did I ever think of breaking my phone out and trying to take a picture of it or trying to film it, So, and it wasn't fear, it's just the excitement of that moment. But, I can say I would shoot, but man, when you're out there, and that's one thing too, like you brought it up at the very beginning of the episode was, you want a validation. When you have a cryptid encounter, a lot of people, who've had it will support both of us on this one, and those who haven't, don't understand. It does leave an impression and a mark on you and it changes your whole perspective on things. And it's where, now hearing that story about your dad and going back to your first encounter, where your dad kept you in the tree and looked around. Now, I'm always wondering if your dad was ever fearful again of that creature showing back up.
I really don't know. I know that whenever, like a movie would come out about werewolves and there'd be like a commercial, he'd turn the commercial or turn the channel real quick. He was terrified of them. And to me, my dad was not afraid of anything. My dad was terrified of them. He's also terrified of the Kushtaka, the otter man. And that's a southeastern cryptid. It's a shapeshifter. It's not, and anybody who listens to this, I'm going to tell you right now, it is not a skinwalker. The Kushtaka is not a skinwalker. The Kushtaka is not another form of a Bigfoot. It's not. It's its own thing. And what my dad saw, and what they can shapeshift into a man, they can shapeshift into a giant sea otter, or they can shapeshift into like part man, part otter. Okay? And he was about 16 years old, and on the property that they owned, they had stashes of firewood. You go out, you cut firewood. You don't always bring it all back in. You have stacks of it in certain parts of where you cut that down, and then later dates you'll go and you'll bring it in, whatever. And that's what he was going. He had a wagon. That's what he's going out there to do. He's going to get some firewood and bring it back into the house. But realistically, I think my dad was going out there to smoke a cigarette. So as he's going, he's walking down the path that goes into the woods. Now, the woods were not dense. They were sparse because, they had cut some wood and stuff like that. So you could see fairly easy through the woods. And down the path he goes, it has like a bend in the pathway. Well, as he's walking up, he sees this guy walking on this path that's on their property, out in their woods. And he's like, my dad's thinking like, who the hell is trespassing on our property? And he said this guy was very unkempt. And the guy started walking. And again, my dad was walking and whistling, having a good time, and, probably going to his little place, away from the house so he could smoke and not get caught by my grandparents. And so he goes and sees this guy walking up to him. And my dad stops in the middle of this path. And this guy walks up to him. And he doesn't, my dad's looking at him, but he doesn't look directly in my dad's eyes. He's kind of, his hair's kind of down around his face. He looks disheveled. He goes, "Got a cigarette?" And my dad goes, yeah. And so he goes and gives him a cigarette. He was going to light it for him. And he just started walking away. And my dad's now watching him walk away. And as he gets behind my dad, he probably gets maybe 15 steps, 20 steps behind my dad. And he stops. And he looks over his right shoulder to my dad and goes, "You shouldn't whistle in these woods. You don't know what's out here." And my dad just kind of froze. And he said, I watched him continue to walk down the path, the trail. And then he took a left off into the woods. Now, again, these woods are not dense. You could see somebody walk from the woods. He saw him walk off into the woods and just disappear.
Whoa.
My dad did not bring any wood back to the house. My dad and went right back. Now, I started laughing. Dad, otter, man, come on, man. Ooh, little otter, And I remember, again, I was about 15 or 16, and it was at the same time about the werewolf. We were having a party, like a barbecue, at our house. And my dad had a friend that he grew up with in Ketchikan, Alaska, who happens to be native. And I remember his name being John. Okay? And I remember laughing because I thought it was hilarious. And my dad looked at John and goes, "Will you tell him?" And with all seriousness, John, weirded me out, but not because he was a weird person. Weirded me out because he backed everything my dad said about the Kushtaka and said, there's things in these woods that people go to every single day, and they have no idea what they could encounter in those woods. He goes, the Kushtaka is very real. He goes, they're either tricksters or they're very malevolent, and they'll lead you to your death. And he goes, because he asked for a cigarette and your dad was able to give him a cigarette, probably spared your dad. And I'm like, what?
What?
And my opinion changed immediately. Because, I don't know, it just felt more spooky and more real coming from his friend John.
Yeah.
Who had encounters with Kushtaka himself.
Now, when I was on your show, we had talked. No, actually, we talked about this off air.
Mm-hmm.
You and me did. As I remember you talking about this, and where you were wanting to put together something to go on the hunt for one.
Oh, I would love to go up to Alaska and find something. But again, there's people that I've talked to. You don't go looking for these things. That's the last thing you want to do. Because, again, they're tricksters and they're malevolent. I haven't heard any stories of them being helpful.
It sounds a lot like the Fae folk.
Yeah, the Fae.
Yep, the Fae are the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I showed you that video that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
I posted it on
moved
my TikTok.
in.
Yeah.
Well, I moved in here. I've been fighting the Fae.
You've been what?
Fighting the Fae since I moved in.
They're around your new house?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, as soon as I got here, boom, water pipes, boom, everything. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Stuff
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to where we just yesterday finally got hot water through the whole entire house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so,
crazy,
I
man.
mean, it's been ridiculous. But I think that right there is a great spot to bring it for a landing. Holy cow.
Sure.
Definitely. Yeah, only because I'm a little constrained on time this evening.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, do me a favor, tell everybody where they can find you.
Sure.
Yeah.
You guys can find me on YouTube and Spotify. I'm working on trying to figure out how to get on Apple Podcast and iHeartRadio Podcast. So if anybody knows how to do that, I'm not sure I understand. Okay, well, you and I will meet and talk about that. And then, hit me up on YouTube or Spotify. If you like what you see, like what you hear, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you've had an encounter, you'd like to come on my show, shoot me an email at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we'll post all the links in the show notes. Tell me to work on that one. So, like I said, yeah, we're going to get this one chopped up tonight. And, well, there's not much editing that really needs to be done. Dano, let me tell you something. That your dad's, holy cow, the fight, I could talk to you for an hour on that one alone. I'm going to call it the battle. I mean, that's just how I look at it, as like the battle, and that just gave me chills all the way through. I mean, yeah, I'm surprised to where you're not like, you didn't turn in one of those guys who live in the woods trying to find these things, to be honest with you.
Nope. I think I would have if I didn't have my encounter in 92.
And we'll talk about
with
that
my little
on the
brother.
next show.
Yeah,
I want to hear about that one on the next show.
I'll give you a little bit of it next time we talk again, but it's a very emotional encounter because not only did it affect me, it affected my little brother.
Yeah, that one I want to save a full time for. I want to do a whole juice time slot for that one.
Cool. And my little brother's no longer here. He passed away in 2016. And it's just, my brother was with me, on the one where I guess our whole camping party got chased out of our camping spot. My brother was there for the sighting. And my brother was there for, the final one. And it's just, I don't know. It's a rough one to talk about, but I mean, if you want to talk about it, I'll talk about it on one of the other shows.
we'll do that. We'll talk about it on one of the other shows. But brother, man, I want to say thank you so very much for first off having me on your show. Man, I had
Yeah,
a
man.
blast when I came on there. I do want to say again, I am terribly sorry about your brother. Um, I, my heart, I mean, goes out to you for that one. I'm sure, even though it's been 9 years ago, I'm sure you're
Yeah.
still not healed from that. So,
Nope.
but I tell you what, when we do the next show, though, we'll put a special dedication into your brother for it.
Cool.
So we'll dedicate that episode to your brother. And I just want to say thanks for coming on. We've been crossing wires and trying to get you on
Yep.
my show, so I apologize for that. But life took a weird turn, and here we are, the new studio.
Yeah, there you go.
So
No, man, it's a good
everybody
time.
out there, yes, thank you. Everybody out there, though, man, go check out a show. I'm a subscriber. I listen to a show. Yeah, I'm on there. So if you want to hear about my encounter, Fort Hood, Texas, if you haven't already, definitely check out the Cryptid Podcast. Dan's great. Like I said, I had a good time on there. Lots of knowledge, lots of information, and yeah, lots of theories, you guys. Definitely check them out. And again, if you've had an encounter and you want to come on the show, email me, drunkencryptids@gmail.com. Thank you for liking and sharing. And until next time, as my daughter says, keep on squatching.
Later, guys.
I can do anything that I want. I can do anything that I want now. I can do anything that I want. Hey, hey, if it is to be, you know that it's up to me. I'm headed to the front. I can be anything that I want. I can be anything that I